everybody, thanks for joining me today on Crafternoons with Hailey. Today's project, we're going to be working on a weaving. So some of the materials that you're going to need for this craft is a pair of scissors, some tape, cardboard, and then yarn for the weaving. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is cut out your cardboard, and I'm going to be using a thin cardboard for mine. The reason is because when we're going to be doing the weaving across, it's going to be a little bit easier to handle a thinner cardboard. So what we're going to do is cut the little notches in our cardboard first that we're going to attach the string to. And you can kind of just eyeball it. You don't have to be precise. You can measure them out if you want to. I'm just going to kind of estimate where my spaces are. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball about an inch of space between each notch. Okay. And you don't want to cut too deep, just a couple little spots. There we go. Kind of see that right there. And now you're also going to want to kind of line up this side of the cuts as well. So again, I'm not going to measure mine out, but you can if you want to be really precise. I'm just going to kind of eyeball mine. There we go. So you can see now we have them on both ends. So the next step is that we're going to take our yarn. I'm going to take a little bit of it, and we're going to pull it through that first one right there. You can see it's on the back, and I'm going to tape that down. Or you can kind of let the tail just hang out, either one. But I'm going to make sure mine stays nice and sturdy. I don't want it to get mixed up later on. Okay. And then you're going to take your thread and pull it through the notch on the opposite side. So I'm going to flip this over and you can kind of take a look. You're going to cross it and then pull it through that notch. So you kind of have a little line. And we're going to flip it over. I'm going to pull it through there. And you're just going to kind of repeat that process. So I'm going to slide this notch, flip it over. You can see the lines that are starting to go across. Just going to kind of keep doing that. And this is how we're setting up the weaving. So we haven't actually started weaving just yet. So now I'm going to take this string right here and cut it. You're going to kind of want to leave a tail because later on we're going to have to tie it. So leave a good chunk of space. And take the tape again, tape that down just so it doesn't move. And so this is the basic setup for how the weaving is going to go. I did a little bit of practice one earlier, so I'll show you what that looks like. So you can see these are the strings that we just made, and then we're going to weave across. It's going to kind of do this neat little pattern. I recommend using thicker thread than what I'm using for this one. It's a little more tactile and a little easier to work with, but you can really use any type of yarn that you have. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to take this yarn again and we're going to kind of pull out a length of it. I'm just going to give myself a good amount, and then we're going to cut it. And this is what we're going to use for the weaving. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this to get this thread to go under these ones or above, depending on which row you're on. I used for my test piece a piece of tape, made it a little bit easier to hold on to, and it makes it easier to go underneath and above the strings. So you can definitely do that. If you've got a plastic needle at home, so if someone in your family sews, you can definitely use that. I'm just going to use the plastic tape because that's what I have on hand. So I'm going to make kind of like a little makeshift. There we go. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, and so the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the string. I'm going to go under the first one, and you're going to alternate. So the first one I'm going to go under, the second one I'm going to go over, the next one I'm going to go under, and then over again, and the last one is going to be under. And I'm just going to pull that through. Get all my thread ready. Okay, so now you can see I've got this little tail hanging out here, the short side. So I'm actually going to flip this over and tape that to the back just to hold it in place. Later on, we're going to tie that off as well. All right, so now you've got the basics of our weaving. And you're just going to keep alternating under, over, under, over. And then you're also occasionally just going to kind of pull these up a little bit, make sure they're snug. And that's going to kind of tighten up your weaving as well. And the other thing you're going to want to remember is that when you end underneath, you're going to want to do the opposite on the next row. So if you look right here, I ended this one with the thread going above. So then we're going to take this, and to start the next line, you're going to go under instead of above. If you happen to run out of thread, that's okay. What you do, or if you want to switch colors as well, is you're just going to take the new piece, and I'm going to take off my tape, and then you just tie them together. Nice and snug, just like that. And then you can just trim the little tails off, and just keep weaving. So I'm going to cut my new length of fabric. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier with the tape, just to make it easier to go through. There we go. I'm just going to keep weaving. The next step that I'm going to do is actually tie off this tail right here. We're just going to tie that directly to this. Nice and snug. There we go. And I'm just going to trim off that little tail. There we are. And we're going to handle this top tail as well. So I'm going to flip that over. And I am going to peel that back. I'll flip it back over. I still have that top tail. And I'm just going to make a little knot right at the top. Here we go, nice and snug. And then I'm just going to trim this tail off as well. And I'm also going to flip this over and trim this tail. I did leave it a little bit long, and that's okay, but I've decided that I'm going to leave my weaving on the cardboard. This is kind of what it looks like. You don't have to necessarily do that. You can cut it off the cardboard if you want. I kind of like the frame of it, so I'm going to leave mine on here, but it's kind of a nice little piece that you can hang up or put in your house. And it is definitely fun to kind of feel afterwards too. It's like we're making fabric out of yarn. Well, that's it for us today. Thanks for joining.